Qualifie V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Qualifie V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pro Physique Code. Coach Lexie, Coach Evan, myself. We got a great topic today. We're going to talk about how to successfully navigate the holidays on prep. Or we'll talk a little bit too about the post-show experience of prep. But before we get the podcast started, comment below. Would you rather compete in the spring or in the fall, winter timeframe? What is better for competing? We're going to talk about the pros and cons of either. Now, I'll tell you my first experience. My first show I did was, I think, November 20th.
Okay.
And I thought, this is awesome. I'm going to do a show and go right into Thanksgiving. Now I know, probably not the best idea.
Yep.
Probably not.
Tough.
It takes a very special person to be able to, or I would opt to say it takes more of a seasoned competitor that knows what to expect post-show if you're gonna do a show in the holiday season. And in fact, this is a conversation I have with a lot of my first-time competitors. If they want to do a show that's close to the holidays, realizing you're not going to be able to just come out of the show and then.
I think for a first-time competitor specifically, it's a landmine of just problems that you can't foresee. For someone that's competed for years and prep is more of a, ebb and flow, it's not such a huge departure from your normal life. Probably not a big deal, but yeah, it was loaded with issues.
Because you have multiple things going on. You have the food, which is part of it, and you also have the pressure, which is part of it. A lot of from friends and family and things like that. And not at that, you have work pressure because you're going to have holiday parties. They're going to bring you food in. They're going to have a lot of that stuff. You're getting it from every single angle. You're getting a ton of pressure. Yeah. And if you don't know how to navigate that, and especially if you've been in a long prep for your first prep, then food noise is going to be higher. And it just makes things way more difficult. It's like turning on hard mode for a reverse.
Absolutely. I know personally for me, I would much rather do a show or prep in the summer. And it has nothing to do with the holidays, honestly. I just feel like, and this may sound silly, but I would much rather prep when it's warmer outside than when it's colder outside. And I think, even living in Florida, that doesn't impact us as much, but in my opinion, there is nothing worse than going to a show and it to be cold and miserable outside, because I feel like once you get the tan, you're always really cold. And then it's nice being able to just go outside and warm up when it's warm. So for me, I would much rather do a show in the summer.
Do either of you find it harder or easier to get lean as a specific time of year? I know a lot of competitors in the past that have said it's just harder for me to get lean in the winter than it is in the summer. Now, I think because the summer is because you're outside more, you're moving more and all that type of stuff. But I always thought that was the most interesting comment.
It has to be that.
It has to be
right
that.
now up north, it gets dark at 4:45.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is not to go off on a tangent, but this has been the topic of, I would say, a lot of my check-ins over the past week is ever since kind of the fall back, the time change for all places except Arizona. It's, this is kind of the time of year where I feel like a lot of people do struggle with that lag in motivation and just feeling a little unlike themselves due to it getting darker earlier and motivation being lower. So yeah, hey, I think in some cases, if that's you, sometimes maybe having a show in the winter is actually good because it kind of gives you something to look forward to.
Well, you said something, Lexie, about dieting over the summer. And if I'm being honest, most people that compete in the fall are going to be dieting over the summer.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I would preferably, I'd much rather do a prep and do a show in the summer. Partly also, I think, that's because a lot of my favorite shows are also in that summer time frame anyways. So I think that's part of it.
You did what, Republic?
Yeah. Republic, there's Tampa Pro, there's a lot of good Texas shows. There's just a lot of fun shows around the summer. And I also feel like that's really where you see like show after show, weekend after weekend. It's like when you're in the thick of it. So yeah, and honestly, not that I'm somebody that like worries about post show, around the holidays, but I also don't want to probably have to be in a position where I do a show and then the next week it's Thanksgiving or Christmas
Yeah.
because, and I'll tell you why. Probably not the reason a lot of people would think, but the reason being is I feel like, with Thanksgiving, with Christmas, with the holidays, that's when you see a lot of people family wise that you haven't seen in a very long time. And there are people in my family that don't understand bodybuilding. And I sometimes just don't want to deal with the comments of like, oh my gosh, you're so tiny, right? Like people that don't understand this sport, if they see you immediately post show and you get those comments, like, I don't know, for me, like it can kind of send me down this like spiral in my head of
Yeah.
like, oh my God, am I too tiny? Do I look terrible? You know what I mean? So sometimes I like to just have a little bit of time to look a little bit more normal before I see those people. So that way I just don't have to deal with those comments.
Yeah, and as you mentioned that, Lexi, I think another big hurdle for a lot of people, especially newer competitors with that, is if you travel for the holidays. A lot of us travel, right? I don't have family really down here in Florida, so I travel like for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and for a lot of people, it's difficult to stay on plan when you travel, right? Because especially post show, like most people, it's hard for most people to prep their food, bring it with them if they're going for a week long trip and everything like that. Um, in post show, that's going to be way harder, the motivation level on that. So if you are one of the people that kind of travel for holidays, is another thing to consider.
Well, let's
It's
give them
another
some
landmine.
hacks real quick, Lexi, because you and I did something when we got to San Diego to help ease the stress of travel. Um, when we got to San Diego, we walked to the grocery store and just bought some stuff for the Airbnb.
Oh yeah.
And I brought protein powder and things like that. So that's one thing that I've gotten really good at over the years is how to navigate that travel schedule with
Yeah,
staying on
I
track.
think the more you do it, the more you travel while living this lifestyle, the more you just kind of you get your systems in place, right? Like it is really nice to be able to travel somewhere, find a grocery store nearby. You can either Instacart or like in our case, Paul, we walked to Trader Joe's and we had an Airbnb, so it was easy to cook some stuff there. So yeah, I think the more you do it, the more you travel while living this lifestyle, the easier it gets. Now, I
Yeah.
feel like for newer athletes or people that just don't travel as frequently, those are usually the people that get a lot more like anxious and nervous around traveling and like staying on track.
Yeah. And I think most of it's just preparation, right? It's either you have a game plan in place, either when you get to where you're going, make sure you go get your food. Um, like I just got back into town. The first thing I did was on the way back, went by the grocery store, got chicken, got some salmon, got some rice, went back, had that ready, cooked it up, and I made sure to have food available, right?
Wait a
That's the
minute.
very first thing that I
That
did.
what you did, or did you stop at Panda Express?
No, I did stop at Chipotle because it was going to take me a minute to be able to cook the food. So I definitely stopped by Chipotle and got two
For those that
Chipotle
aren't
bowls.
aware, Evan and I have like a little hack we
Yes.
do. If you go
It's
buy
right
like
next to Panda
family,
Express.
if you buy like the family dinner from there, I think it's like three entrees and two sides or whatever. It lasts you a couple days with the food.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like $35. You feel like you are stealing food from them. You are
No,
walking
literally,
out
I'll
with
I'll go in my
pallets of
fridge. I'll be
food.
like, "There's more. I still have more." Yeah, it's really good.
That's funny. My
Yes, it
see
is.
my little hack with traveling is, and you can't really do this if I guess you're going to be gone for a long time, but I always like to make sure I have like 24 hours worth of like food for me ready when I get back because then that way, sometimes the last thing you want to have to do when you get back is go to the grocery store or maybe it's closed by the time you get back. So I always like to make
Mhm.
sure I at least like don't leave my house with zero food in the fridge because sometimes the last thing you want to do too is like you get back after a long day of traveling and you don't want to have to meal prep, you don't want to have to go to the grocery store, so I like to at least have some things just like either frozen or in my fridge ready for me when I get back.
Yeah. And look, even if you're traveling, right, and you come back, don't stress about having to be 100% perfect, right? Especially kind of on a reverse situation with it. Like I said, I went and I got my groceries from Publix and I went right across the street to Chipotle. I got two Chipotle bowls with double chicken and one chicken, one steak, and then just white rice and nothing else. And I had basically a chicken and rice bowl, right? And I had two of those to get me through until
I
my meals
haven't
were
done it
ready.
yet, but Whole Fresh Kitchen actually offers like catering
Yeah.
style side. I want to do that one week and just see if I can portion it out and see, because
Oh
there
yeah,
are times.
Yep. I
they
saw that the
yeah.
other day there.
They do that. I remember last year after coming back from the Olympia, actually it was right after we had the second hurricane here in Tampa, and I was gone for like 10 days, and I remember getting back and it was like 7 p.m. at night, and I had fully planned on I was going to walk to Publix, and that's when they had their weird like hurricane hours. So I remember walking there and they were closed, and I was so upset. I was like, because all I wanted was like real food, because after being at the expo, you had all you have all the quick grab and go stuff. So there's actually a place near me, and it's kind of like the place you just mentioned, Paul, but it's like a meal prep place. And I just went in and I was like, hey, could I just get like 8 ounces of cooked chicken? And they were able to do that for me.
I think I know the place you're talking about, Lexi.
Yeah, the protein place.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's good. That
yeah,
place is
yeah.
good.
And it's honestly wasn't overly expensive, but I mean, in the moment, like I didn't have any other option because Publix was closed and pretty much every other grocery store was. So yeah, I just popped in there, and I was even considering too in the moment. I remember telling myself, okay, if they don't, if they're not going to give me chicken, I could just maybe pop into a restaurant and literally ask, hey, could you guys just grill me a chicken breast or two and buy it that way? So there's always
Hmm?
little loopholes you can kind of work with.
There is.
Yeah.
If you
So
want to think about it, there is. But I think what most people's issue is when they get done with prep, they don't want to think anymore. And they want to, I'm doing quotation marks, like live your life, right? I don't know how many emails you get like that. Like, I'm just excited to live my life. It's like, no, I understand that. And you should be able to live your life inside of prep too. So that's where a lot of that kind of works in, right? But live my life is code for eat whatever I want, not think about it.
Yeah.
And
so
that's,
it used to be, Coach, I just want to take a week or two and just eat intuitively, and I'll check back in, and I have to send them like this long warning message.
hmm
Your intuition is freaking wrong. Do not trust your intuition the week after a show.
no,
Um,
no,
yeah.
it's not
No.
going to be good.
Well,
Well,
and there's something to be said too for like not only that intuition, but like hormonally, you're not in a position where usually you're able to think logically, right? Or you're very much so thinking in the emotion, and you're not able to think logically. Because a lot of times I'll have clients a couple weeks post show, they're like, holy crap, coach, like, how did you even put up with me the week post show? I was not myself. And I'm like, it's okay. I know to expect that. But yeah, a lot of people just they can't think logically post show, even though in the moment they think that they can.
well, and that's something that, when I see, because the fun thing about bodybuilding is it's so cyclical, right? Like, so we've been in the sport for many years. There are thousands of people that are just now getting into the sport of bodybuilding. And when I see things on TikTok and Instagram Reels where they're like, little did I know this one meal after my show would send me, and I'm like, man, it's funny. It's like I've already gone through this entire journey, solved
hmm
this problem completely. But then there's people that are coming into the sport brand new and they don't have this information, and they don't understand how hormones work. They don't understand why
Yeah.
you can be physically in pain post show from eating and still be hungry. Like it,
Yep.
Right.
and when you learn that, I no longer after a show do I eat until I'm not hungry anymore. I just eat something that I'm craving and then I shut it down and then I move on. And you learn to deal with hunger. And that's like when we're talking about today is, starting a prep now. So if anyone's competing at the Arnold, or if anyone's doing the early spring shows, they're starting prep now soon. I've got
Yep.
clients that are just getting kicked into gear. And so it's a topic that's come up recently is like, hey, um, how do we navigate the holidays? And I have to break it down for them. So I think that's a great topic to talk about. And if you guys are interested in competing in the spring, I'm going to put a link below. Set up a free consult with one of us or one of the other members of the team. Prep coaching for 2026 starts now.
Oh,
Um,
Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you guys can attest to this too. This is, and I put this out there I'm not trying to be salesy or anything. I just think truthfully, some people don't think about this. I think a lot of us, I think all three of us can probably agree with this. We prefer to work with athletes before they start prep. Maybe it's not for a whole off season. I mean, that would be awesome. But, very rarely am I going to start with somebody like the moment they start prep, right? It happens.
hmm
I will there are some cases where that happens, but it is really helpful. If we can work with you for a couple months before starting prep, it just gives us more time to learn you as a person, learn your psyche, and also learn how your body responds to certain
Yeah.
variables. That way, when we start prep, we're not experimenting with all of that.
Yeah, and it's and a lot of the teaching kind of goes out too, right? I've worked with a few people recently for just their preps, and typically that's not normally who I work with, but I've had a few recently, and with every single one of them, the first 4 to 5 to 6 weeks of it is getting them to understand and to buy into the plan on what it is. And then, of course, the longer we get, they're a little bit frustrated on, oh man, I wish would have pushed a little bit harder sooner because they start seeing the results. But we're kind of behind the 8 ball there. And having that buy-in earlier allows you to, when you start prep, to just get off on the right foot with it, right? And understand even the simplest things like how to send your check-ins correctly, the type of pictures that you need. All those little things matter. They
Mhm.
matter. And you need to get the baseline understanding of how to do those things before you start a prep,
Yeah.
because that's
So
just going to add a ton of extra stress on it.
use the link if you guys are looking for to start the year, even if it's, you're going to start next month or next year. Just set up a consults now because
Mhm.
we book out pretty quick. And there is a little transitionary phase in December where people will reach out and I'll be like, yeah, you timed it just right. I'm not full
Mhm.
yet. So, um, all right. So let's talk about how to navigate the holidays for prep. We'll attack it from the idea that we're going to do a show, like let's say a show in March or April, like the Arnold or something like that. Are there any other big shows around that time of year? There used to be the Clash in Florida was huge, and that's
Well,
No.
there are two shows. Well, there's the LA Fit Expo show in January. I wouldn't say that's a big show, but we have that
ooh,
show,
that's a
and
really
then
small show. That's
yeah,
like
and
January
then
like 9th.
Yeah, there's
That's the
just
show that you send your clients to if they're trying to do the Arnold and they haven't competed yet.
yeah,
right.
that's the basis of
And
it.
there is
Yeah,
one in
because
Vegas in February. I can't remember the name of
That's
it.
what I was gonna say. Yeah, there's like one show in January, one show in February, and then the Arnold. And then I feel like, I mean, truthfully, you're right, Paul. There used to be a class show at like the end of March in Florida, but now that doesn't exist. And I want to say this past year, the first show in Florida wasn't until the end of like April. So
yeah,
yeah, and that's really when you start to see the majority of like the shows start back up after the Arnold would be
So
like
you're saying if there
maybe.
was an event in Florida at a gym where you could learn how to pose, got some seminars, train effectively with someone like Brett Contreras right around March 21st, you say that'd be a good time for that?
Ooh, I see what you did there. I think that would be a
I'm
beautiful.
just as hypothetical, but if anyone was going to save the date, I would say save the date around March 21st and pay attention because pre-sale will be going live for something. So just putting it out there.
for a pre-sale might go live for something around that date.
Just might. I would say March 21st seems like a really good time to be in Fort Lauderdale. Good weather, good people.
Yeah, right. It's a beautiful time of year too. Weather's
Anyway,
Yeah.
great.
all right. So let's talk about what exactly the holidays represent. Let's include Halloween,
Yeah,
Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus,
Festivus.
whatever. I don't know what other religion. Maybe I'm missing something. Um, but I think really the difficulty for anyone that's navigating that is if you're not taking an approach where you're macro based and you're pretty flexible, that eliminates, I think, the majority of the problems.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is a really big help, and I think that's a transition for a lot of people that were on meal plans and trying to figure that stuff out. Even for clients I have on meal plans, even if working with just a prep, I try to teach them about the macros throughout it so they're able to navigate and manage things post show, right? It's incredibly important. I think, the difficult part about the macros and navigating things around the holidays is mainly because you're not always going to be making your own food with that. And you're not
Right.
sure kind of what's in it, right? You know how much butter they use or oil they used or anything else in there. It's a guessing game. And if we're trying to keep calories in a good spot with it, my recommendation for most people is, hey, let's probably overestimate the fats and carbs in these meals by probably 25% of what you think it is. And that's going to put us in a pretty good range on things. Maybe still be a little bit over, but trying to guess exactly what you think it is going to be, it's probably going to be more than that.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, it just depends what phase of prep you're in because we always talk about the prep funnel, how at the beginning of prep, you're going to include a little bit more stuff.
Hmm.
At the end of prep, you're going to be kind of eliminating almost all variables except for the same foods you digest very
Yeah.
well and you can track very consistently. Um, if you're not getting on stage till March and it's Halloween and you want to have some candy corn because that is the best candy in the world, I think
Ugh.
we all agree. We all
We
agree.
had, you know what, that was our question last week with
Hmm.
you and I did, Paul. And it was funny. I had a couple clients that commented, and their clients were like, we agree on everything besides the fact that they were like, I don't like candy corn. I think it is phenomenal. And I did even see somebody comment that there's
Ugh.
a coffee creamer that's candy corn flavored. Have you seen that, Paul?
I don't do coffee creamer because me and cream are
No,
not
it's
friends.
a dairy-free one.
Oh, then I like my coffee like hard, black,
Like it
without
Yeah,
black.
any sweetener. I don't know. I'm just
I love the taste of orange rubber and licorice kind of rubbed
that's the
together.
thing I don't understand. It's weird, and I understand that human taste buds have quite a varied experience, but it's like when someone's like, "I hate candy corn," I'm like, "You just hate joy? You just hate pleasure? Like
Oh
it's just so good."
It is good. It's just really sweet. So I just feel like I
But
can't have.
I bet Evan, you like IPAs then.
no,
Oh, see, IPAs are like all the rage. It tastes like soap to me,
it's
and that's
too
like a
thick and
genetic thing.
weird. Yeah, it's not my thing.
Hmm.
And I'd rather put my calories in other places.
Well, yeah, I'm not when I'm having a beer. I'm not like where do I? I'm just having a beer to get drunk or whatever. But like IPAs or India Pale Ales or just the beer is just it's
Mm-mm, not my
brewed
thing.
differently and it's very like dry.
Yeah, it feels like it tastes like a spoiled Guinness
Yeah, it's like
mixed with a Heineken.
it reminds me of like the first time I ever had a drink of alcohol, and I'm like, people willingly drink this.
Yep.
Mm.
It's like vodka is what you describe someone what alcohol tastes like. It's like
Yeah,
vodka.
yeah.
And yeah, we'll
Mm.
go down. Let's not go down that rabbit hole about our first alcohol experiences because it was not. My first was a Heineken
We should
beer.
do a
Oh my
Christmas
God.
episode like Power Hour style where we have to eat something every
I
minute.
knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were
Can
gonna
I'm
we
say
do
down.
I don't think you guys could do the Krispy Kreme. I know Lexie could.
no. You guys can, if you want. I mean, I'll sit and watch. That would be
Look
awesome.
look at
Who do
Evan.
you think
He's
you
like
talking to?
Evan could totally do it. Crispy.
12 donuts an hour is not as easy as it sounds, my dude.
I
I
could eat
would.
12
I.
donuts on a random
I. c-
Wednesday.
I could be the person that like you guys could do it, and then I'll just by the end of the episode when you guys can barely talk, I'll kind of
It
piece
is.
together the episode and wrap it up.
Our digestion would be phenomenal since we're talking about that,
I will literally fast and plan like a leg day right after or something. Like,
right?
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, geez. But getting back to the holiday thing, I think something that messes a lot of people up with that too is, you're talking about at the end of prep, you have foods that really digest well, right? And then when you roll out of prep, people start introducing other foods which necessarily don't digest the best for a lot of people. And do they really not digest that best, or do you just kind of finally understand what good digestion's like, and you're kind of getting back in that the way it was previously? I think that's part of it. But I recommend for everyone, like stick to your normal prep foods for a little while, right?
hmm.
You're going to know what the digestion is going to be there. And then when you have your free meals, when you have your Thanksgiving, when you have your Halloween candy, your candy corn, or whatever terrible things that like candy corn you want to put in your mouth, you know, you're gonna the vast majority of everything you've had is gonna be something that digests well, right? So you're not constantly overloading your stomach with that type of stuff because I feel like it really does compound digestive
Well, when
issues if you do.
someone says to me like, "Hey, coach, like, man, my cravings have been really bad lately," I'll say,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, what are you including in your diet that you haven't been including?" And they're like, "Well, how'd you know?" I go, "Because when you have something you haven't had in a while, that gives you a craving, and then and it kind of creates a circular, logical thing
Mhm.
where you just start adding it in. I had a
Absolutely.
client that was doing too much cardio, and I'm like, "Why are you doing extra cardio?" Well, because I ate a bunch of this. So I did the
Yep.
I go, "So you're basically going, oh, I can eat whatever I want as long as I do extra cardio later." You're turning
Mhm.
yourself into a position that's gonna end badly.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah,
It's going to
those.
end badly in a few different ways, not just the physical part of it, but your relationship with food gets messed up and you look at it as punishment, right? You're like, oh, I did this, now I have to do this.
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah,
that's
and it
not a good way to look at anything.
No, and it's a slippery cycle,
Mhm.
right? It's the whole, okay, around the holidays, okay, overeat on Halloween candy or grandma's cookies or whatnot. You feel like garbage. And then you do want to compensate by going into the gym, doing excess cardio and, pulling back on your calories or your food or even fasting. And then again, what happens after that is after you fast or after you do all that cardio, you're super ravenous and hungry again, and then the cycle repeats itself, right? So,
Mhm.
and I know I've had the discussion over the past day or two with a couple of clients who have expressed to me, they're like, all right, Halloween candy got the best of me. Because a lot of people, when you're handing out Halloween candy, you do buy a little, maybe a little too much, and then you have a lot of extra candy just laying around. Or maybe you're one of those people that you have little kids and you have all their Halloween candy. And, when it's staring at you in the face, it can be a very slippery slope to go down, right? A lot of people can't just
Mhm.
have one piece of candy and then I'm content, right? Some people can, but most people it's like one piece and then it's just the floodgates open. You just want more and more and more, right? And so I've had a couple clients that have mentioned, I had one person yesterday say, hey, I made my husband take all the Halloween candy with him to work, like, to just get it out of my face. So I think in some instances that can be a good strategy. I know not everybody can do that, especially if you have kids, but just like maybe hiding some of that stuff or getting it out of like your forefront so you can't stare at it all the time can, be a good strategy to have.
Yeah, and understand yourself and know yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I just can't keep the stuff in the house with it, because I am one of those people, and I'm very aware of this, and I know it's not, the best way to look at this type of stuff, but I also understand myself, and if it's in the house, I'm gonna eat it, and I would rather not have it around. I just would rather not have it. The temptation is not there, and it's way easier when it's not present in front of your face. This is the same thing, right? Like we tell everyone, like get off your Instagram feed with that. And you can tell a lot about how someone's going to handle a post show if just hit that search function on Instagram and see what pops up.
You
Absolutely.
can tell a lot about a person by their I
That
really
you
feel
can.
like you can tell what's going on in their life. What like
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it is so crazy how great like social media is so insane because I was just thinking about this the other day too, because like your algorithm really does tell a lot about you because I've just been falling down this rabbit hole of I want to change a lot of things in my condo. Like I'm looking at a lot of accounts and Google searching a lot of like home renovation stuff, and that's literally all my feed is right now. And
Hmm.
it's like it's so crazy how our algorithm it really does explain like a snapshot of what you're focused on in that phase of your life. It's insane.
And I tell you what's crazy interesting about this stuff is, so I was out of town this weekend and went into an aloe store, the fitness brand. I've never had a piece of their clothing. I've never looked at them. I never gave two shits about any of it. Now that's all I get is advertisements for that on my Instagram feed from because I walked in the store.
yeah, yeah, yeah. God
I,
forbid you ever type anything on your phone. Um,
I know.
I've never even typed it in my phone. It's because I walked in the store. It's the craziest thing about
that's
all this
wild.
stuff.
So like the geocaching now is
Yep.
I've heard about that where they're going to start having like let's say you're walking into a store, literally like the ad will pop up on your phone like a text message. Hey, we see you're near a Sephora. Here's a 40% off.
It's crazy. I've never Googled it. I've never looked at, never owned a piece of the clothing. And it's all the advertisements I get now. It's never once popped up before.
I did find something out because sometimes I'll want to see something on Instagram, and obviously we're off topic here, but we'll get back. And it'll show up a bunch in my feed. If you go to the post and go to the three dots, you can say not interested, and you
Yeah.
do that a couple times, and that goes away for good.
Yeah.
So guys out there, if it's just naked chicks on your For You page, that's your fault.
That's your fault. It's not,
And
that's
girls
not the
out there,
algorithm.
if it's just like I don't know, pumpkin spice lattes or whatever you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Social media these days or technology these days for their
I heard Gary Vee, he doesn't even call it social media anymore, because it's like it's not about the social aspect anymore. It's about targeted media. It's about
marketing media. Yeah.
it's you see what you want to see. You see more of what you look at, which makes a lot of sense. And so the era of following people and seeing more of their content is over. Now it's only about posting a lot because people, if they're, let's say, if they're seeing the same thing over and over, they're just going to get more of that. They don't have to subscribe. They don't have to follow. And it's been a big weird thing with me because I've been busier than ever with coaching, but my social media platforms aren't growing, but they're busier. It's like this weird conundrum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I know what you mean there. Yeah, sometimes I'll get like a ton of traction on a reel I posted like 3 weeks ago, all out of the blue. I'm like, interesting. So yeah, but okay, so where do we leave off there with with the
Well, I mean, the
holiday?
big things are, so this is how I break down the holidays because people panic and go, Coach, it's Thanksgiving. What do I do? I go, it's one meal.
Right.
Yep.
It's, and even if it's a ridiculous meal, you can't eat that much in a single sitting. Just stuff yourself with protein first. Have a little bit of a plan. Go for a walk after dinner. I usually on Thanksgiving Day will just have like a protein shake in the morning and a cup of
Mhm.
coffee and just kind of like help out in the kitchen and.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a good like reflection moment for a sec too, because like I think back with Thanksgiving, let's just say over the past 5 or 6 Thanksgivings, and I feel like, every Thanksgiving leading up to where I'm at now, I feel like you learn something with every holiday you endeavor, right? Like and I think that's the important thing, right? Like especially as an athlete, as a competitor, you're gonna have some holidays where maybe you go a little overboard, right? And then you learn from it next year, right? You maybe learn, okay, well, last year I went overboard. And the reason I went overboard is because, I literally didn't eat anything all day. And then I just kind of went crazy,
Yeah.
the Thanksgiving
Hmm.
meal. So I feel like that's something that I encourage, all the listeners to do is like leading up to the holidays. Think about past holidays that have either gone not so great or that have gone really great. And like, okay, the ones that have not gone so great, what can you learn from that and implement this year to ensure that that doesn't happen again? Something I can say is like, I want to say this was like 7 years ago, um, maybe a little bit less than that, but I remember this was, I guess, yeah, it was probably the last time I had like when I struggled with binge eating. This is the last time I had like a full on binge, and it happened on Thanksgiving. And I think back to that day, and I know exactly
Coach Sarah
what
here.
caused that to happen, right? So
Coach Sarah here to tell you about.
Sorry, I'm trying to share our podcast on social media.
you're good. I was
Because I
like,
was,
who's talking? But I think that that's important, to think back about past holidays that maybe haven't gone great food wise and to learn from that, right? Because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, like mistakes are going to happen, but unless you want to repeat that mistake again, you need to sit there, reflect, and ask yourself how you can learn from that mistake, right? Nothing
Yeah.
is ever a mistake, nothing is ever a failure unless you just choose to not learn from it, right? So I'm trying to remember what my Thanksgiving was like last year. Like I would say the past couple Thanksgivings I've had have been awesome with food. And and what I do is every year before Thanksgiving, I think back to, okay, last year went so great. What did I do on that day that allowed it to be so great? So I can repeat that again this year?
Yeah, I think it's about being present. And a lot of
Yeah.
people, when they go overboard on things, they kind of disassociate from it and don't want to think about it
Yeah.
anymore and block it out. Look, I've prepped through all types of situations in every phase of the year. I can tell you there is a massive difference on how I want to eat on Thanksgiving if I prepped around that time compared to when I didn't. Very different, right? And understanding that and going into it with a plan, being like, hey, look, I know my hunger signals are out of there. My food noise is up pretty high right now. Let's go ahead and kind of set a plan to manage this here. Now, is that something you should need to do every single year, all the time? No, hopefully that's not the case, right? But if we're in a situation where prep is around that area, I think it's super important for most people to be able to do that, right? Because number one, it's going to take that mental stress off of you. I have so many clients right now that are either going on a vacation or traveling and trying to coach them like, well, I need to know exactly what to do. And I'm trying to coach them. I don't want to give you an exact plan on this. We're in a really good place right now. Everything is awesome. And now's the time to be present with your family, not to be fully focused on, I need to make sure I nail these macros 100%. Not now, not right now. And try to coach them through those different types of situations and arming them with the information they need so they can start thinking and making their own decisions inside of that, right?
Yeah.
have
That's the
you all
way
ever
things
been to
become
the gym on
sustainable.
Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy
Freaking
busy.
packed, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. Yeah. I
I
usually,
think a lot of people are like, let me burn a few calories before I go.
yeah.
Work up an
No.
appetite.
Also, nobody works. It's a really nice weekend because like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's like a nice
Oh,
decompression from life.
Yep.
yeah, I love it because usually my birthday falls within like the day afterwards or sometimes 2 days afterwards. So, but it is nice. Everybody's off work, so you get to just be present with family. And, and that's something I also always encourage people to think about around the holidays. I'm not going to sit here and say that food isn't a part of the holidays because, there is some nostalgia and some traditions that are wrapped up in food around the holidays, right? But I try to encourage my athletes to really think about the biggest thing about the holidays. And for a lot of people, it's the company you're around, the people you're around, being present with your family, being present with your
Hmm.
friends. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter what you do or what you don't eat in that setting. It's more about just, at least in my opinion,
Yeah.
enjoying time with your family, right? Because like I know for me, Christmas and Thanksgiving is that one time a year where I get to see some family that I don't see any other time of the year, right? So I really just try to focus on being present with the company around me and my family because I feel like some people think they're missing out on the holidays if they're not eating XYZ. And again, I understand for some people, food can be more nostalgic around the holidays, but I think at least or the way I look at it is it's more about just being present, making those memories with your family, because those are going to be the things you remember most of the time. You're not always going to remember, if you had I don't know, this dish or this dish. You're going to, probably remember those times that you got to spend with your family and those memories that you made with them.
Yeah, look, food is a big part of the holidays. It is. It brings people together. And for us to sit here and say that's not the case, I don't think is an accurate statement, but food brings people together. We're
Mhm.
not getting together with people for the food, right? So I think if you kind of reframe it like that, some of that obligation kind of
Well, we
falls
also
off.
live in 2025, and I think most people are familiar with either dietary restrictions, allergies. Even my family is like, they make things without dairy so I can have them now, so like,
Yeah.
um, and so they'll even ask like, hey, can you have this year? If I make this, can you have it? If should we get three pies or two? Right? So they'll ask that stuff. So I think once you establish that, hey, um, this is a part of my life, people will, generally support you and family should support you as well.
Hmm?
And you can do a bit of both, and if I am on kind of a phase, I might just have a slice of pie or a half a slice instead of like four,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to too, is that portion control, right? Like, and a lot of times too, like you can have a bite or two of something just to get the taste and to experience it and enjoy it without having to have, 5 slices of the pie, right? Maybe if you want to try a couple of the different pies, maybe instead of having a full slice of each, you just have a little tiny slice of each just to kind of get
Hmm.
that taste and that experience, right? So feel like portion control is something you can really run with there. So if you want to try a lot of different things, and also another strategy that I always try to really preface to my clients is slowing down when you're eating and you're sitting down with that meal, right? Because a lot of times when you overdo something, it does happen when you're just eating really quickly, right? When you're going back for seconds and thirds and like you're just eating so quickly that you don't even have time to soak up like, am I full or am I not? So, sometimes I'll tell my clients like put down your utensils between bites, like really focus on being present in those meals, engaging in
Hmm.
conversation with your family, with your friends, and just eating slower. Because a lot of times you're going to be a lot more satisfied and you're not going to go as overboard if you're really focusing on slowing down with eating the meal as opposed to just, putting it down your throat and then going back for seconds and thirds before you even realize, oh shit, I'm so stuffed that I could, vomit.
One thing that's really helped me too is I don't overload my plate.
Hmm.
Like I'll look at other people when like at Thanksgivings and meals and come in like they have food just hanging off all sides of their plate and it's stacked up this high. Uh, I think especially if someone else made that food, right? You feel obligated to finish it, even if you're full or not full. So I've always just aired, hey, I can always go back and get more, right? I can always go and get more. And I've found that really helps keep me regulated, not just for the calorie intake, but for the fact that like it's a lot of rich foods, right? And it'll overload my digestion and I will not feel good. I won't feel good.
My
And
mom loves Paula Deen, Evan, and I know you know about some Paula Deen.
I love bolognese. Butter,
So
butter
funny.
starts
Bro,
everything. It ends
bro,
Well,
everything.
bro.
here's another little, I don't want to say hack or strategy, if you so will, on that topic. A lot of times when your family or your friends are making, holiday dishes, it is stuff that there's just butter and oil like as the main ingredients. So sometimes I'll encourage clients to, make a dish for Thanksgiving or for Christmas. That way you do have that dish where, you know what, you can make it how you want to make it. If you want to have some healthier alternatives in it, you can. But sometimes that's good to like just get involved with the food preparation itself. So that way you can at least bring something to the table that
I don't know what sorcery they make the cauliflower mashed potatoes at Fresh Kitchen with, but those things are so damn good.
you know what,
I
I will
probably don't want to know the macros on them, to be fair. They don't list the nutrition, but they are delicious.
I actually made something like that a couple years ago, like mashed potatoes, but the main ingredient was avocado or not avocado, cauliflower, and it actually was pretty
Mm.
good. You could still make some pretty good dishes that are like even just with little substitutes, maybe not using normal butter, using, I don't know, like the lower fat butter or just subbing something else out in place. Like you could make some pretty good stuff with just one or two healthier substitutes if you want. I'm not saying you have to.
Yeah.
It's Thanksgiving. Sometimes it's just good to go all out and, have the real deal. But, if you are somebody that likes to cook and wants to contribute, it's sometimes you can, have a side dish that you bring
Hmm.
to the table that is built to your liking.
Yeah. And my personal thing is when it comes to Thanksgiving and stuff like that, I would prefer to stay around more just like the potato side of thing than like mashed cauliflower, just because I worry about the fiber getting up really super high with that, especially for having a large amount of it, right? Because I think a lot of people look at something like cauliflower mashed potatoes like, oh, I can eat mounds of this because it's cauliflower, right?
Hmm.
Next thing you know, they digestion is no, 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 no. They're backed up for days,
That's
right?
my favorite when they came out with those shirataki miracle noodles.
Um,
Yes.
And I was like, hold up. This whole bowl of noodles is four carbs. Let me tell you, there's a price to pay for those four carbs.
Yes, there is.
oh yeah,
It is
that
called 6 pounds of weight gain from insoluble fiber infiltrating your digestive system for 3 days.
Yes.
Yep, that or hate to say it, but Quest bars. I don't think I've
Hmm.
ever had a
I
client.
think they changed how they make Quest bars because
I know
they
they did.
used to digest really well,
I
and
know they
now
did.
they are horrible. Have you tried the David bars yet?
Yeah,
No.
I actually like those. They're not, I'll be honest, like
The
the macros,
macros are unbelievable.
they are. They're not like the most delicious protein bars, but for the macros and for the cleaner ingredients, I really like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Quest bars absolutely changed when they were purchased by Post. I know they changed
Yeah.
out their fiber source along with it. And
Yeah, they had a good, clean, like corn fiber source that was really easy to digest. And I remember it was just one of those things. I had bought a box and I had and I was like, oh, done with
what happened?
these.
What
Yeah.
happened, right? Yeah, I used
They
to be able
even
to
they
eat
even got like a little
multiples of those.
harder. They weren't as like, yeah.
Yep, you're right. They did. Almost like they're old.
Yeah. Now, what's
Yeah.
funny is Mike, my kids love the Cliff Bars. They love them.
Oh, Cliff bars are so good, man.
And
Oh my God.
anything kids will eat is good because they
Yeah.
don't play. They're not like, oh, this is good for me. They're like,
Cliff
get
bars are
this out
just
of here. Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're like a little gooey thing of joy.
And I found these little protein waffles my son will eat. They're like waffle shape. They're flat and they're really good. He loves those. So,
Mhm.
um, all right.
Yeah,
Well, let's
and
talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to the holidays. Alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think first, before we get into how we would approach that, I think we should talk about how you can track it too. Because, I mean, whether or not you choose to track your alcohol on the holidays or not,
Mhm.
I'm not saying you have to, but this is a question I get a lot of how to track alcohol. So, should we just like explain that real quick?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Do
that's
it.
important.
Yeah. So, I know I've made a graphic about this before, and I'll try to find it and maybe post
Let
it.
me tell you how I tracked my alcohol in college, Lexi, because this was very important to me. Every
Okay.
beer I drank, I would keep a beer tab in my pocket. So at the end of the night, I could be like, I drank 13 beers.
Oh my gosh, Paul, that's
You ever
funny.
do that, Evan?
Oh, we had ours was way more debauchery than that. We would have giant fish bowls of Long Island iced tea with like 8 straws in between it. So we never really knew how much we had. It was
Well, I
just
used
by
to
how
also
stumbly we
keep the
were.
little cocktail straws in my pocket if I was at a bar, because yeah, you'd be like,
Oh,
wait, no, I had one here, no, I had that shot. You'd be like, by the end of the night, you wouldn't know how much you had. So I
Yeah,
used to try
that's
to keep
up.
a tab, and in the morning, I'd be like, yeah, I drink a lot.
oh my gosh. Well, I think Some people, I feel like a lot of people that listen to this podcast, like are competitors and probably know how to track alcohol. But for those that don't, it's not as simple as just like seeing on the side of a White Claw that, oh, it has 2 carbs or whatnot. Like that is
Two
not.
carbs, 8 calories, easy. Let's go.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Unfortunately, no. But basically, I think to
No.
dumb it down to make it most simple, you can track your alcohol as either carbs or fats or a combination of both. But just to keep it simple, you can either track as carbs or fats. So because 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories, what you would do is take, the total amount of calories for that alcoholic beverage. So let's say it's 100. You could divide that by 4 and track that as 25 grams of carbs, or if you wanted to track that alcoholic beverage as fats instead, because 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, you would just do 100 divided by 9 and track that alcoholic beverage as 11-ish grams of fat. So
Mhm.
technically, to keep it simple, you can either track it as carbs or fats. And usually, unfortunately, the labels on alcohol, you just can't trust them. They're going to say 100 calories, 2 grams of carbs, or whatnot. Like that, that's not true. So
No.
use the equation I just kind of proposed, and that's how you track alcohol. And I think it's good to have that awareness of like how it can be tracked if you're going to track it, because I mean, it's good to have the awareness of how quickly it can add up, right? You may think that your innocent 3 beers one day is like, oh, that's nothing, right? But I mean, if you do the math, if you're tracking 3 beers as carbs, like that could easily be 75 grams of carbs from three
Hmm.
beers. That adds up, right? So that's why I think it's important to have the
Oh,
awareness of like, if you're going to track it, what you would track it as, because when you have that level of awareness, you're going to probably be a little bit more mindful of, ooh, okay, you know what? One drink, may just be where I want to stop. Or, if you're going to have 2 or 3 drinks, just being aware that it's feeding into a lot of those carbs and those fats if you're going to track them.
yeah, and I know this will probably play with a lot of people's minds because they'll look and be like, well, there's only 2 carbs in there. Well, look at the calories, right?
Mm-hmm.
The calories are what matter.
That's
A
all
lot of
I
people,
tell people to do.
yeah, a lot of people will say, the alcohol is like the fourth macro, right? But it also doesn't provide anything beneficial for us. So that's why we can't put it in the protein category. And if we're counting macros, we're only counting three
Well, and
things,
what's funny
right?
is they don't usually put like on the label it says protein, carbs, fat. It doesn't say alcohol because
Yeah.
alcohol is 7 calories per gram. It doesn't. It'd be cool if they did that, but that's why it says 2 carbs but 100 calories is
Hmm.
because they're
Where else did
not
that come
listening
from,
to
right?
alcohol.
They're
So
not, they're
I
not
almost
listing it.
always use carbs because my diet's kind of carb centric. Um, and it's just fat just goes bye bye so quickly if you're doing alcohol for fat.
Hmm. And
Um,
look, here's the other thing too. If you drink liquor, right, it's between 70 and 80 to 90 calories per ounce, per ounce, per ounce.
and let me give you guys
So,
my take on this because I did something a few years ago that made my life so much easier. I decided, not everybody has to do this. I decided I was not going to have any alcohol for 1 year.
mhm.
So from January 1st till New Year's, I didn't have any alcohol um, because I wanted to compete that year. And I just said, it's just going to be easier for me to use this as my kind of place. And it just made decision making so easy because as soon as I said, you know what, I'm just taking a year off of alcohol, everyone was like, oh man, that's such a cool idea. And that was the end of the conversation. It was no more like, hey, can I get you a beer? You don't want to just have one. And I did in November have a non-alcoholic mocktail. Those are a scam. They're the same price as a cocktail. I was like, how
Oh
is
no,
my fucking fake mojito the same price as your real mojito?
with just the mixers,
And
pretty
it was
much, right?
delicious, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, so something's not adding up here. But yeah, so like there are ways where you can just state your line in the sand. And I'll be honest, if I'm in prep, I'm just not drinking alcohol.
No.
It's just not necessary. Can you get away with it? Sure. But it is not going to help you.
Yeah, it's not going to help you. It doesn't provide any benefit. And again, it's not necessarily the calories and the alcohol that are the issue. It's the decision making that can a lot of times slip along with that too. Um, it leads to, you know, poor decision making. It leads to interrupted sleep. It leads to a lot of different things. And people focus on, oh, it like down regulates the protein synthesis and all that. So, I mean, okay, sure. Like you really want to go down all the way down that damn rabbit hole, you can with it. But though that's not what I think the issue is. It's the issue is all the poor decisions you make after it, the interrupted sleep, and a lot of times the dehydration that can kind of go along with that too. Um, And then a lot of times too, I mean, alcohol is a depressant, right? It is. And a lot of times that can play with your mind a little bit the next day too. So again, when you're in prep, um, some people can drink, some people can't drink. I've had preps where I've drank a little bit, but most of my preps I've absolutely just not. Right. It's because I like to feel as good as I possibly can during that time. And I just don't see that as being a beneficial thing for me.
Yeah, I agree. The way I look at it is just empty calories. Like I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a social benefit if you want to go that route, but like other than that, especially in prep, there's absolutely no benefit to, at least the way I look at it. I'm not going to waste my calories on something that's going to give me absolutely no value. Like,
No.
most of the time in prep, I want to make my calories go as far as they can with actual food. So, and not to mention too, recovery usually slows from, in the gym when it comes to, alcoholic consumption, and like you said, Evan, sleep suffers, digestion can suffer. I think it hits some people harder than others. I have
Mhm.
some clients where, gosh, they'll have two drinks and they're like, holy crap, I felt it. Some clients have two drinks and they feel fine, right? I think
Mhm.
everybody has a little bit of a different tolerance. So, I think it's all about knowing what type of person you are and how, if that's important to you around the holidays to have a beverage or two with your family, that's your decision to make. Right now, if you're in prep, I wouldn't condone that. But if you're out of prep, I also think it's one of those things, like we said earlier, like it, it's a holiday, right? I think as long as kind of the moral of this podcast too is, the way I look at it is, Thanksgiving, Christmas, they are a day. As long as you are not turning it into a whole damn like hollow week, I think that's where you start to kind of run into some issues, right? And then you're that person on January 1st who, you're up 5 to 10 pounds, compared to where you were at 2 months ago. So as long as you're just treating it like an actual day and being mindful about it and staying present and not just turning it into a whole week of like shenanigans, generally you're gonna be just fine. You're gonna come out of the holidays exactly how you entered them.
Lexi, no, it's just bloat and water weight.
Sure. I
It's just
mean,
That's
bloat and
my
water weight.
favorite. Coach, I could get on stage real soon. I just have a little bit of water in my glutes.
Yeah,
mm,
I'm bloated. My digestion's up. Well, how come you've been bloating? Your digestion's been off for like 11 days now. And the weight's never gone back down. It's not water and
yeah,
bloat anymore. It's not.
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? It's a slippery slope, especially I would say. I mean, thanks or Halloween was kind of our first little glimpse of it with like,
Mhm.
okay, Halloween candy, and you have leftover Halloween candy for the next week. It kind of stares at you. It's very tempting to kind of fall down that loophole of turning it into a whole week of just indulgences. And same with Thanksgiving, right? I mean, especially if you're hosting, you have all that leftover food. Because I don't know about you guys, I don't know I don't, know a time in my life where I've had a Thanksgiving and then all the food is gone by the end of the day. Like usually there's a lot of leftovers and then you have those leftovers for the next week. And I think that's where it can get a lot of people. I don't think it's always just the day. I think it's kind of the aftermath and like dealing with the leftovers. And, and for some people too, if they have a really bad, situation with food on Thanksgiving where they go overboard, it kind of kills their momentum. They wake up the next day, they feel terrible. And then sometimes they want to throw their hands up and just, say, oh, well, you know what? I already feel terrible. What's one more meal or what's one more cookie or whatnot? And then that can just feed into this like perpetual cycle that it can be really hard to come out of.
Let me
What
get your guys' take on this because this is something that has helped me over the years. I think a lot of people fear the scale. And I think if you fear the scale, that can be a problem. For me, getting on the scale can make me go, oh, yeah, you know what? I got to get my stuff together today. I don't want this to continue. So for me, it's always like, I don't live and die by the number on the scale, but
Yeah.
it does help keep me accountable to myself. And I don't even have to share that with other people. Um, but, it's it's data.
Mhm.
Can it be manipulated by sodium and stress and sleep? For sure. But it can also be manipulated by eating like an asshole.
Yeah. And look, we know that too, right? Like we know if we overdid it, we stepped on the scale and the weight's up. Look, we understand that. We also know if we didn't do it, we didn't overdo it, and we had maybe some really high sodium and water was down that day, that it could be that too. I handle it two different ways depending on someone's relationship with the scale, right? And that's why I think it's important to work with people year round, is because you really start to understand people and what that number on the scale means to them. Is it data or is it like their God? Does it determine how they feel, how they act, everything, right? There's a lot of people I know that they step on the scale. If that number is not what they want it to be, everyone around them better watch out,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not
Well,
a
and,
healthy
and
place to, of course,
there is
be.
a place in prep we all get to where you have a great couple days. You look
Hmm.
the best you've looked. You've nailed the diet. You've gotten your sleep. You've crushed your cardio. And you're like, man, I know I've made some progress. And the scale's up a pound. And you're like, it's defeating. And you're like, man, because you don't see the big picture.
Hmm.
And this is obviously where coaching is huge. But so there are times where listen, I consider myself a pretty experienced competitor, pretty realistic with my expectations about prep, but I've literally gotten on the scale in the morning and just it ruined my morning. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm not suggesting that I want that for anyone, but when it's the holidays and when you are trying to be on track, I think getting some data that is not
Hmm.
biased can be important.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Yeah.
I've even used that with some athletes too that want to be intuitive throughout the holidays, are going to be traveling a lot. I'm like, we can, if they have a good relationship with the scale, right? And let's say we're through a reverse, then I'll say, hey, why don't we use a scale as our guide today? Right? Like if you step on the scale and the weight's up a significant amount, just maybe move a little bit more. I'm not saying go do 2 hours of cardio, right? But after you get some meals, get some extra steps in if you can, take the stairs instead of the elevator sort of thing. And maybe just back the food down a little bit. Make some prioritize your protein and don't give in to every temptation that you see, right?
Yeah.
And then if you wake up the next day and the weight's down 2 pounds, then okay, I have a little bit more leeway today with
Right.
that. That way you can kind of come back in a really manageable position. And I
Yeah.
think that takes a lot of the stress away from people too, because a lot of people, especially if you're type A, you feel like you have to be able to track every single solitary little thing, and it drives you kind of up the wall.
Yeah. No, I totally think the scale can be a great tool for accountability, right? And to kind of keep your actions and your choices a little bit more at bay. And I've done the same thing, Evan, with clients, even not around the holidays. If I have a client who goes on like a long trip and
Hmm.
we're going to do a little bit more of an intuitive eating kind of, approach. I don't do this with everybody, but sometimes I'll have them, take their scale with them. So that way
Hmm.
we can just, again, use it as a little bit of a guide. Like you said, if they step on the scale one day and the scale is down 2 pounds, okay, that's a sign that, hey, they need to probably beef up with their eating, right? Whereas if it's the opposite, maybe move a little bit more, maybe be a little bit more aware of your food choices. But I find that for a lot of clients too, the longer that they stay away from the scale, right? Because I think we've all had the scenarios where, especially like
Yeah.
post show, if somebody goes off the deep end, they go off the rails, they don't want to step on the scale. And like you have to kind of ask yourself, why
Yep.
why don't you want to step on the scale? And generally it's just because you don't want to be forced to be accountable towards your actions, right? But I find that the longer somebody stays off the scale in that situation, usually the more fear they get around the scale, right? Because it's like,
Yep.
oh my God, I haven't been on the
It's a
scale for a
punishment.
week or two, right? Like, I don't know what it's going to read. Whereas it's like, you know what? I don't know about you guys, but when I step on the scale every morning, I just get so desensitized to it. I look at it as data. I don't, do the whole, oh my God, what is it going to say this morning? Like, because I do it every day. Where it's if I only weigh in, like, let's say once a week, that actually makes me a little bit more like, I would say, anxiety ridden
Yeah, for
toward
sure.
right. So and that's how I try to frame it to a lot of clients, because sometimes I'll have clients that I start with and they'll tell me, they're like, oh, weighing in daily is not good for my mental health, Lexie. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, okay, I get that, and I'm always open to accommodating towards that, but hear me out. Sometimes stepping on the scale every day can actually be really good in terms of just making it so that like you're not as fixated on that number. You look at it as just data and you're like,
well, I say, Lexi, stepping on the scale once a week is more damaging.
yeah,
Absolutely. Because
I agree. I agree because you're not seeing those fluctuations. And honestly, one of the things I love being able to teach clients is understanding the fluctuations and like why our scale weight fluctuates, right? Whereas you can't see that if you're not weighing in daily. But if you're weighing in daily and you see, okay, one morning the scale is up, but yet you think back and you're like, oh, well, I had a really intense leg day yesterday. That's why my weight is up. Like, I think it's good to be able to understand why weight fluctuates.
yeah, and that's looking at it objectively. That's hard for a
Yeah,
lot of people to do,
it
and
is.
especially females. I've found it's far more difficult for them to do that. And I always speak to them like, okay, let's think with our logical brain here. With it, let's take the emotion out of it. This is just a data point. Why didn't it go down? Look how much cardio we've been doing. You said you were sore for 3 days after your last leg day, right? That's probably why the scale is necessary or not quite moving right now, right?
Mhm.
And being able to talk to them about that is helpful because if you feel like you're doing everything right, we just talked about this, and the scale is not moving the direction you want to do it, then it gets frustrating. And eventually, what happens with a lot of people is they start taking a liberty here and there. Well, I'm doing everything perfect and it's not working, so I'm just going to have a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and next thing you know, the scale just doesn't move. Right? It just doesn't. Or they say, well, I've been eating all these clean foods and the thing isn't moving, so I'm just going to go back to the other stuff that I liked more anyways, which doesn't necessarily play the best with their digestion. And they get in a cyclical thing in their head about it, right? And a lot of people, it can really, really hold them back with that.
Yeah.
Instead of just really, I hate the term trust the process, but it's like you just trust this is going to work, right?
Yeah.
Trust this is going to work unless you are a metabolic outlier that needs to be put into a study um, on how you thermodynamics does not apply to you, right? It will end up going in the right direction.
It will. And I think, hey, like this is also a really great opportunity for, and I'm not trying to sound salesy or anything, but I think like as coaches, we love working with clients throughout the holidays. And in fact,
Hmm.
I think I don't have it as much anymore, but I used to have clients that were like, well, I'm going to be traveling a lot throughout the holidays. I'm going to be really busy. I think I may take a break just because I've got so much going on. And I always say, as a coach, I don't expect perfection. And in fact, I feel like you almost need a coach more when you're navigating phases of life
Yep.
where it is a little bit busier, it is a little bit more chaotic. And I know that may be counterintuitive to what some people believe, but if you had a good, perfect grasp on everything, like you probably wouldn't need a coach as much, right? But I think the holidays can be a really great time to stay with your coach, especially because you have that source of accountability and you have that like GPS that's going to be able to help you to troubleshoot the things as
Hmm.
they come up, right? Because something that I'm very, open with my clients about throughout the holidays is every check-in, like if you have X, Y, and Z coming up, throughout the week, whether it's a holiday party, Friendsgiving, whatever it may be, bring it up to me. That way we can kind of plan a good,
Yeah.
good kind of course of action around that situation to ensure that A, you're able to enjoy it, but B, you're able to feel good with your decisions afterwards.
Look, I think some of the most coaching I do is around the holiday season. It is. It's different, right? There's contest prep coaching, and then there's kind of your relationship with food and that type of coaching. And they very much go hand in hand, people. They very much do.
Listen, knowing you're sending pictures to someone every week, that's one
The
of the first things
accountability.
I remember about hiring a coach. I remember being on like Friday and Saturday night when I was out with my friends, being like, oh, I got to send pictures on Monday to my coach.
Yep.
So it was like Mondays were the perfect update day for me because I was like, if updates would have been Friday, I would have been like, well, I could have fun this weekend and mess around and fix it. No, I purposely liked my updates on Mondays because I had to crush my weekends.
Yeah.
So
And
I have a question for you, Lexi. So you mentioned
yeah.
something that's happened, I'm sure, to all of us, right? Where somebody says, hey, I have to be traveling through the holidays right now. I just want to take a break. How often do those people come back?
I actually find that a lot of times they end up coming back, usually after the holidays, but they come back and they're in a worse position than they were when they left off. Like, and I don't know if this is the case for you guys, but I find that a lot of those clients that want to take breaks, at least the clients I work with, they end up coming back a couple months later and they're like, ugh, gosh, you know what? You were right. I
Mhm.
miss my accountability. I miss my routine. And honestly, you know what? Sometimes I think that's a blessing in disguise because some people need to take that break to really realize how much the accountability and the coaching was really benefiting them, right? I think some
Yep.
people get in the headspace of like, oh, it's just one more stressor, but then they go off on their own. They realize, oh my God, this is doing more harm than good. And then they always come back and they're like, oh, yep, you know what? You were right. I miss my accountability. I miss having a routine. Literally just had a client who came back to me a couple weeks ago. That was her scenario. She took some time away and she was like, all right, I have never been more excited to get back to my routine because I realized how
Hmm.
good it was actually making me feel, right? So
Yeah.
I would say a lot of times those people do end up coming back. I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but maybe just the people I work with, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say I think a lot of them do end up coming back very suddenly. They come back after just a month, like they say.
Yeah.
Typically, it takes a little bit longer than that. And I've also found too, when people get back into it, not everyone, but a lot of people, they find it a really big struggle to get back in their routine with it. That
Oh, yeah.
fire they had initially with it isn't there, or it's not to that same level, and it's a very difficult thing for them to be back like they were before.
Oh,
I find that with a lot,
1000%.
especially on the lifestyle side of
Yes,
it.
no, that is such a great point. Yeah, it's almost like they have to kind of go through another like that first month is just like it's so sticky. It's like just getting that routine back in place, getting those habits back in place. But yeah, you're so right. It usually takes a good time, a good amount of time for them to get that momentum back.
Yeah, and it's too. It's. I know they're frustrated with it because when they start, they're so motivated. It's like I can't wait to dive back into this, and then it just like no.
Yeah,
No, the accountability is not there. And it can take a while for them to be able
absolutely.
to fully kind of get back in that swing of things, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And, and I also think too, as we kind of start to like wrap things up, I think there's also the other side of things. We've been talking a lot about clients that need all the accountability, that need, to kind of rein sometimes the flexibility in around the holidays. But there's also the flip side of things where there are some people like, and this is just about, this is just as a coach knowing the athlete and knowing, their psyche. But like, there are some people that I truthfully need to tell, hey, like, enjoy the day. Memories over macros. Like stop
mhm.
trying to mentally calculate the macros in your head for your Thanksgiving meal. Because some people are like that. And I'll be honest, there were past versions of myself like years ago that would do that as well. And like sometimes you just need to be told, all right, you know what? Memories over macros today, right? Like you're not going to remember how many macros you consumed on this day 2 years from now. But what you are going to remember is the time you spent with your family, enjoying that meal with them, right? So some clients need that side of things too. They, I think it's almost like they need permission to just have a day where they don't track anything, and then there's that side of things too.
Yep. And yeah, I think that's where a lot of the coaching comes in over the holidays,
Yeah.
right? And I think it helps people obviously with the accountability part of it. And also if you're a type A, that permission for them to be able to be a little bit freer. I think a lot of
Well,
people
and
look for that.
honestly, like when you decide to do a bodybuilding competition, you're gonna be fine over the holidays for the most part. I mean, you've got that northern guiding light.
Oh, if you're in prep,
Um,
yeah.
Prepping through the holidays, I think makes decision making a little bit easier. It's trying to navigate the holidays where you're walking the fence of like, well, I really want to enjoy myself, but I really want to stick to my plan. That's where the struggle and honestly the guilt and the trouble can come in. So there's it's odd. The biggest show of the year every year in Florida, or one of the biggest, is the Holiday Classic,
I
and
know
it's on like December 20th this year,
it
which you would
is.
think like, ain't nobody doing a bodybuilding show. Listen, this show's been around for like 25 years. Mel Chansey does it in Punta Gorda. It's packed every year with 200 competitors, and I think it's part of it is like, hey, let's have fun and do a bodybuilding show right around the holidays. It just makes for athletes navigating that, or they set that goal. And it's not what you would consider necessarily like the most competitive show of the year, right?
No,
But
no, I
it's
know
just got
it's
such a
really
big
great.
history.
Yeah, I know you've always said that. And unfortunately, gosh, I wish I could go every year though. It's usually right when I leave to go home for like a good week or so. But yeah, it's on December 20th this year, but it's always a huge turnout. And I don't
Mhm.
know, I think it's fun too. Like it's very themed towards Christmas and whatnot.
Oh, last year I wore a Christmas tree sweater. It was fun.
Oh, you do have that. Yeah. No, I don't know if I'll be able to go this year because it depends if I'm in town or not. If I am in town, I would love to go, but it is a fun show. It's
I've
kind of
got a
a
couple girls prepping for it, and
Great
I
show.
think ultimately it's like it's also I used it last year as a warm up for the Arnold. It was like,
Oh
because you have to
yeah.
qualify for the Arnold. So all my girls went there and got qualified. Um, but it's just one of those things that you're like, man, there is something else to this. Bodybuilding for a lot of us is just our lifestyle. It's not this
Hmm.
thing that we do for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. It's just the way we approach life. And so, you know, the longer I've been doing it now, I shudder to think I did my first show at 32 and I just turned 50. So that's 18 years. But I'd say really the last 10 is when it became my lifestyle. The first couple of years, it was like, oh, I'm in prep now.
Yep.
I forget.
Right.
And then it
And
was
that's
like, oh,
most
prep's
people.
over. Fit all the fun stuff in before prep starts again.
And honestly, I am so here to tell you guys that like it is so much more fun when you can look at it as a lifestyle. Like as opposed to, all right, prep starts, like, I'm 100% like totally different than I normally am versus when I'm out of prep, I'm just going haywire. Like I just feel like it's so much more fun when you just live this lifestyle year round. I'm not saying you need to be prep level locked in 365 days out of the year, but I just think it's so much more enjoyable when it's your lifestyle. Like the way I look at it is I would live this lifestyle regardless of if I got on stage or not. Like getting on stage is just kind of the icing on the cake or the cherry on top, right? It's just like, it's kind of a little extra push in the midst of living this lifestyle, but it's just way more enjoyable when you can look at it as a lifestyle you live, to some capacity year round.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up how to navigate the holidays. And then I still want to hear from you guys. Would you rather do a show in the spring or would you rather do a show at the end of the fall? Just give us your thoughts below.
Yeah.
I've done both. I don't know. There's pros and cons to both. So,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I just don't like being cold. I mean, I think you guys know that. And I just would hate to prep when it's cold, like and do a show when it's cold. Like, no, no thanks. You know what? Actually, you bring up the idea, Paul, or you brought up the show in Florida that's pretty big on December 20th. There's another show in Bloomington, Illinois, and I that's where a lot of my family lives actually, but it's a tiny town in the middle of Illinois, and I think it's called the Holiday Classic as well. And it
hmm.
is always a big show every year. I remember last year, huge, like number wise, huge, which is baffling to me because, like, I chuckle because also, if any of you guys listening, if you know where Bloomington, Illinois is, or you've been there, comment below. But it's a tiny little town. It's where my dad was born and raised. And actually,
You know what? I'm going to look something up because one of the first shows I ever did was called the OCB Midwest States, and it was massive, and it was in DeKalb, Illinois.
okay. Well, it's actually funny, Paul. I don't know if she listened to the podcast. If she does, I guess I'll hear after this. But um, your client Haley Grunlow, I think her.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because her and I kind of bonded a while ago because she's originally from that area as well, and that's where my dad was born and raised, and that's where the majority of his family still is. But it's literally like cornfields, farms. So I've always thought it's just so funny that there's this show in that area. It's huge. I think it is called the Holiday Classic, and it's around December.
Okay, the show
Lexie,
I'm thinking of is called OCB Midwest States, and that's November 22nd, which is the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. Yeah,
yeah.
the holiday classic shows are right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Um,
Lexie, I'm
yeah.
going to completely change your mind on winter shows right now.
Okay.
When it's cold outside, they turn the heat on, which means it'll be a little bit warmer backstage.
No,
Can
because
I tell you what
usually,
one of my favorite things in prep is like when you're in the gym training and your car's been sitting in the sun, and I
oh,
come out and I get in my car and it's like so hot that I'm like, oh, it feels so
yeah.
good when you have no body pad.
It's yes. No, I just know myself and because I go home once a year to St. Louis and usually I go home for like 7 to 10 days around Christmas. And when I am cold, like I literally all I do is I sit in front of the fireplace at my house and I just work. That's literally where I live when I'm there. Like I hate being cold, even if there's heat. Like I just no, can't do it.
All right.
But, yeah.
Are we doing a cruise this year, guys? I feel like we got to do a cruise.
Well, I'm going on 2 cruises. Well, one is a family cruise, but one is in January. You guys are very much so welcome. It's the Angel
January is wide open.
Fashion.
What's the dates in January you're going?
Let me double check. I think it's like
Where's it to?
it's from Galveston to it's a 5 day cruise. I want to say it makes 2 stops in Mexico or the Caribbean somewhere. It makes 2 stops. I know
Yeah, I
that.
might not go to Mexico until they stop blowing up the drug boats. Yeah, I might skip that.
All right,
I don't
guys.
know if you've seen the cartels have released a few messages that are a little cryptic.
Uh,
Little,
the cruise lines are smart though. I feel like they always know how to navigate that stuff. And you don't
that's
have to
fine. That's fine. I'm
don't
not
have to get
interested in
off the
Mexico
ship
right now.
either. Like the ship sometimes is just fun to stay on when you port and just hang out. Yeah. So there's going to be a angel fashion show on the cruise, believe it or not. Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad for me.
It
We should do it and wear wings, Paul.
Oh, you know what? I could
I
very
would
easily tell them that you
totally
guys
do
are
that.
interested, and I'm sure they would make a costume for you.
I would rock that.
All right, guys. Well, stay tuned for our next
Did
podcast.
we do the Angel Fashion Cruise, me and Evan, with Lexie, and participate in the fashion show?
That would
Yes.
be fun.
I'm
Yeah.
just picturing that scene from Dodgeball where they come out in the S&M gear.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Kara would absolutely love if you guys wanted to do it.
Purple Cobras, Paul.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and have a good rest of your day.
If you could dodge
Nobody
a wrench,
makes
you
me
could
bleed
dodge a
my own
ball.
blood.